as refugees. So tonight we commemorate World Refugee Day under the theme Every Action Counts. There is no better way of celebrating this day than to listen to a success story from a man who dared to dream. Later I'll have a live conversation with Sud Olad, who's 29 and from a refugee to candidate for Ward 6 Minneapolis City Council. But first, let's loop you in on the news stories of the day. This is Saturday Night News. Let's take a look at the highlights.
Politicians drawn from 3 political parties tear-gassed when holding a meeting at a private residence in Kakamega. Plus, tonight we tell you the story of a jobless school bus driver who's making sure commuters in Nairobi adhere to washing hands protocols to curb the spread of COVID-19. And Nyayo National Stadium has finally gotten its glow back after nearly 3 years of renovations.
And welcome back. Saturday Night News begins now. I am Linda Lela. Our sign language interpreter is Faith Chep Tili. Now, national cases of COVID-19 have increased to 4,478. This is after 104 more people tested positive in the last 24 hours. Out of the 104 cases, Nairobi had the highest number at 60, followed by Mombasa with 33 cases. Kilifi had 5, Busia 3, Kajiado 2, and Taita Taveta 1 case. 2 more people succumbed to the virus, bringing the total number of national COVID-19 deaths to 121. Another 36 people were discharged from hospitals today, bringing the number of recoveries to 1,586. And away from the numbers to politics, as the 11-member Select Committee of the Senate readies to start hearing the impeachment petition against Anne Waiguru by Kirinyaga MCAs, more governors are likely to follow suit. Kitui Governor Charity is already on the chopping board after 40 MCAs signed a petition for her removal for various reasons, including underperformance, graft allegations, among other charges.
A few days after the impeachment motion against Governor Anne Waiguru sailed through the county assembly, Kitui MCAs have followed suit with over 40 MCAs signing a motion to remove Governor Charity Ngilu from office. 3 other governors are also likely to face the same fate. Kitui MCAs plan to debate and pass a motion of impeachment against Governor Ngilu for alleged underperformance, failure to initiate tangible development, and breach of constitution. But what is informing the wave of impeachments? Migori Senator Ochilo Ayako says it could be politically instigated or out of merit, though insists MCAs are within their rights to impeach governors.
Politicians must have what we call emotional intelligence. Politicians must be on top of their PR. Politicians must be able to run with the hare and hunt with the hound. In other words, you must be multi-talented to be able to bring diversity together and speak with, to, and on behalf of diversity. So if all of them have signed against her, there is something that is amiss.
Father Oyako says despite of the political impeachment wave, the Senate will act accordance to the law.
It is important for Senate to look at the allegations, to look at the procedure, and to look at the threshold. There is an element of threshold. Are those allegations serious enough to warrant the discontinuation of tenure of that governor? That is what Senate must consider. Senate must also consider, was the procedure fair? Were the charges or the allegations against that governor based on evidence, based on verifiable facts? Those are things that the Senate must consider.
This comes even as nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura has written to the Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka calling on the upper house to review the impeachment laws. Elizabeth Mutiko, TV 47 Nairobi.
Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth Mutuku, for that. Now, 3 researchers from Mount Kenya University are the latest innovators to join in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic by inventing a COVID-19 contact tracing app. Now, the app, dubbed COVID Trace, has the ability to trace people who might have been in close contact with a COVID-19 patient in a 14-day window. Take a look.
3 researchers from Mount Kenya University have invented a mobile application dubbed COVID Trace that has the ability to trace people who might have been in close contact with a patient in a 14-day window.
How it works is that if, for example, I happen to contract COVID-19, what the government or the administrator will do at the back end in our other system is that you only need to key in my phone number and instruct the system to do tracing. The system will compare my data, my location and timestamps against all the other people. And if there's an overlap, then the system will automatically generate an SMS.
According to the trio, the application uses a self-testing tool that prompts the users to input their personal data, such as their travel history, in order to determine their COVID-19 status or potential.
Basically, you'll answer some few questions. It's actually 6 questions. And then after answering the questions, the algorithm will tell you if you have a higher risk of getting or contracting COVID-19. The information is based on your, let's say, travel history and also your current scenario. So we expect that people should provide an honest answer so that the recommendation will make sense to them. And if, for example, you have a higher risk of getting or contracting COVID-19, we don't just tell you have a higher risk. We also give you a list of proven recommendation from the ministry that will help you to take further measures.
The application further uses a back-end system, which is a web-controlled portal that can be used by an administrator to track exact locations and timestamps of users, thereby providing real-time locations of COVID-19 patients.
On the administrative portal, it will automatically generate a list of all suspected cases. So the government or the administrator will not have a hard time asking you whom do you come across with. He will automatically follow up that case, follow up from the SMS, because the SMS that you have received, everybody who has been contacted by the system his contacts are also generated by the system on the other end. So the government will just be doing a follow up. But on this particular date, you receive an SMS. Have you done as you were instructed?
Apart from giving the users instructions on whether to self-quarantine or go for a test, it also alerts the users when he or she gets into close contact with a COVID-19 patient.
After we want to see people who have been in contact for the last 15 minutes or the last 9 minutes. So it's really possible to, using that timestamp and the location stamp, to know how long were these people closer together. Okay, and does that constitute significant risk of transmission?
The innovators now say should the innovation be adopted by the government, it will not only save on cost but also ease the contact tracing process by a huge margin. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
And let's proceed to a different one. John Jenga has been a school bus driver for the past 11 years. With schools closed in the country because of the COVID-19 pandemic, he decided he couldn't sit at home and do nothing. So every morning he walks with water barrels on his back to fill the hand washing stations he volunteered to set up in downtown Nairobi.
As the sun rises over the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, John Njenga makes his way into the city's central business district to supply water and soap for pedestrians to wash their hands as they go about their business. He decided to volunteer his time, efforts and money after hearing Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe warn about the spread of COVID-19 and the need to regularly sanitize. As of Saturday, the country recorded 4,478 COVID-19 cases since the first case was reported in March. Nairobi's water infrastructure was already creaking before the government ordered people to stay put and keep clean. But at the best of times, Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company can only supply 526,000 cubic meters out of a daily demand for 810,000, according to Nahashon Muguna, the Utilities Acting Head.
Nikasema nitaenda kwa duka ninunue tank hizi za maji hizi ambazo mnaziona hapa. Nikanunua hizo tank, nikanunua mitungi 5 ya maji na hurubaro, sababu ndio nilikuwa nayo. Na nikaenda Nairobi, nikaanza kuchotea watu maji. Nikaweza hizo matanki kwa street. Sasa huwa ninachotea watu maji kila siku.
Jenga ferries 3 200-liter water drums, one at a time on his back, to 3 busy bus park areas and refills them with water throughout the day. The 43-year-old says he used almost all his savings to buy a wheelbarrow, 3 water tanks, 5 water cans and soap that cost 6,000 Kenyan shillings, which translates to almost all his savings. Jenga's efforts over the last 3 months have won many fans.
Sasa hii ugonjwa vile inakuja tuioni kwa macho, ni kitu tunasikia tu, lakini maagizo ya gava vile watu wanaambiwa wanawe mikono ni muhimu zaidi, because bila kunawa ikikushika inakuwa ni jukumu lako pia kwenda hospitalini. Sasa kuzuia hiyo magonjwa mingi, afadhali kunawa. Sanitization ni muhimu zaidi.
Bus park operator Duncan Kamau agrees.
Mambo ya corona ametuletea maji huku town, kuanzia Tomboya kuteremka yote hivi mpaka huko kwa karibu railways. Anajaza kila mtungi maji, kumaanisha ni mtu anahudumia watu vizuri.
Jenga does not know when schools will resume, following the closure in March by the government in a bid to limit the spread of COVID-19 disease. And as he walks through what were his tools of trade before the coronavirus pandemic, he admits that students are among the worst affected by the disease.
Kwanza ni kitu inaniuma sana kwa sababu hawa watoto ni watoto ambao walikuwa wanapenda masomo sana. Na wakati hii COVID-19 iliingia, wale watoto wameadhirika.
And as this noble father of 2 walks home every evening, looking forward to the next day, today he can look back and say mission accomplished. David Mudhoka, TV47, Nairobi.
All right, and that incredible story will be taking us for a short break. Remember, we have so much still aligned for you, including that interview as we commemorate the World Refugee. We'll be having Sud Olad, who's 29, a candidate at Minneapolis City Council seat. We'll be discussing more on his life, his journey from that point where he's been a refugee and all the way to this point where he's indeed dared to dream. So don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Saturday Night News as we proceed. As the world commemorates the World Refugee Day, many refugees continue struggling to cope with the harsh realities of life in a foreign land. The harsh economic times steal the joy of fleeing from persecution and war from their countries. In Nairobi, outside UNHCR offices, camp a group of refugees who are complaining of mistreatment from the administration. They decry that UNHCR officials are yet to grant them necessary documentation to allow them secure jobs and move freely.
A group of refugees are camping outside the UNHCR offices in Westlands, Nairobi. They have been forced to turn this place their new home as they await assistance from the officials in charge. Children, women and men are forced to sleep outside where they depend on well-wishers for essential commodities. Umana Sonia from Burundi has been camping here for the past 3 years with her 2 children. One of the kids was picked by UNHCR officials and transferred to a camp, but as she says, she does not know which camp she was placed in.
Ndafanya basi waache kunipea usaidizi wengine basi wanipee mtoto wangu. Hata sijui mali iko. Sasa niko na miaka 2, sijui kwenye iko na ni mkubwa na ni msichana. Iko na miaka 7 na msichana iko mbali na mama yake si mzuri na sijui kwenye iko na sijui chenye anakula na sijui chenye anavaa, sijui kwenye anaoga, hata sijui gisi wanamshika. Kama nikusaidia watanisaidia wakitaka kwa sababu hii miaka yote nakaa hapa hakuna usaidizi wowote.
All Sonia and others have been forced to do is beg for food and sleep outside the UNHCR offices. And as if sleeping in the cold is not bad enough, they claim they are being harassed by the security guards manning the offices.
Tukienda hapo UN watusaidie, wanatuletea wa polisi, wanatuchapa. Na siku nyingine hapo wakati niko naomba usaidizi wamenichapa wa polisi wakanishoko kwa mtaro. Wakafanya kama ni mtu sijui hawamjali, wakafanya 1 2 3 wakanisha kwa mtaro. Ningekuwa ni mtu mwingine kama hapo ningekuwa nimejiua, lakini nimeona mtoto wangu nikijua tabakia na nani na hata mwenye hayuko hapa atasema mama ameenda wapi.
Mugabe Jack, who fled Rwanda in 2014 and has been seeking refuge in Kenya, is yet to acquire documentation, and every time he goes to the office seeking help is turned away. Mugabe says seeking help from this office is an uphill task. Globally, there are over 80 million people who have been forced to flee their homes as refugees or internally displaced persons.
Kitu ambacho ninaomba kama vile wanasaidia refugees na mimi wanisaidie.
Ukiona pesa zenye tunaandikiwa kama mimi, kuna wakati nimeandikiwa pesa niende nichukue pesa. Hizo pesa zenye nimeandikiwa nikanyanganywa na ofisa mmoja kwa hiyo ofisi.
So this is one of the temporary structures that have been put up by these refugees who are forced to call it home as they continue struggling to find help from the UNHCR in Kenya. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
But it is not all gloom for refugees in the world. For some, the sky is the limit. Sud Olad came to Kenya as a refugee when he was only 6 months old. He lived at the Dadaab refugee camp for 20 years before relocating to the U.S. Today, 29-year-old Olad is a front-runner in the Minneapolis Ward 6 City Council elections due in August. And Sud Olad joins me live from Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the USA for conversation on the good, the bad, and the ugly in his life. Sud, how are you?
I'm doing good, Linda. Thank you for having me, you and the team at TV47.
Thank you for choosing to, of course, talk to us tonight.
I really appreciate it. With this, this World Refugee Day is an important day for many refugees, as you, millions of people who are displaced around the world. It's a big day for us. I'm really grateful that I joined you today.
All right, thank you. So today you are also contesting against 8 other strong contenders for a political office in Minneapolis. Briefly, paint a picture of your journey since you left Somalia at that tender age of only 6 months.
Yeah, 6-month-old. I was born in Somalia, and the civil war erupted in our country, and we flee and seek a refugee in Kenya, and we came to Kenya as refugees in 1991 with my family and millions of other Somali refugees. The United Nations and government of Kenya give us the hospitality and the welcoming that we enjoyed for the next 20 years. I called home Kenya until I left to the United States 8 years ago, and today with all those horrible stories that we're hearing with the pandemic going on, there's still refugee stories to tell.
All right. Now, where is your family now that you mentioned it? Your siblings, your parents?
My mom and my dad and rest of my family are now in Minnesota, and they joined me after we've been separated for almost 7 years, and they joined me in 2017, and I'm so happy that I reunited with my family in the work of the travel ban, with the refugee shutdown, all those all those disappointments, and there's no refugees coming to this country or other countries to start new lives. I was happy to my family joined me, but still we have a lot of work to do when it comes to advocating and speaking for those refugees. But my family are now in Minnesota, and they reunited with me 4 years ago.
We've just, of course, broadcasted a story on a woman who's now somewhere crying upon the UNHCR to ensure that at least she's able to be taken care of. And most importantly, she notes that her child was taken and she's not able to know where she is. I mean, what did it take you to reunite with your family?
Yeah, it took me up to 9 years. It took years to reunite with your family. I moved to the United States in 2012, and my family joined me in 2017. And after that, it was, refugee shutdown or the travel ban by the President of the United States. So it took me years, my family, to join me. And that was just a story of too many refugees who were unable to reunite with their loved ones. And even as we speak right now, my wife lives in Nairobi, and she can't join me even if I win this race because of the travel ban and what's going on in this country. So with this Refugee Day, there's a lot of challenges still facing refugees, whether in Kenya or here in the United States.
Right. So if you were to compare opportunities for refugees in Kenya and Minnesota, what would you say?
Refugees in Kenya and refugees in the United States are two different things. And despite what is happening in our southern borders, the way we're treating refugees, is still people like myself who get a resettlement. Our case is different because when you come to this country as a refugee, you will be getting welcoming, and you will be getting all the documents that you need. You are legally here, and you will be able to find a job. You will be able to find higher standard education, and you will be able to get opportunities just like any other American. I become a naturalized citizen just 3 years ago, so you can tell I'm enjoying all the freedom any other American enjoys. So that's the difference, and I hope African leaders, basically, especially Kenya, they will give those fellow African refugees who come to these countries the free movement that they need, so that they can bring all those opportunities. If a refugee is given opportunity, they will have sky is the limit, as you said, and they will be able to bring more opportunities and developments to those countries that hosted them. So, but it's a different case in Kenya. You are not allowed to move. You are not allowed to do things. You've been stranded in those refugee camps. So, and that's been, everything I remember about refugees of today, the World Refugee Day. It reminds me when I was in Kenya, because I could not move, I could not do anything. But still, I am grateful the welcoming and the peace-loving Kenyan people who hosted us. But the governments do not do the right thing for the refugees except hosting them. There's no movement of refugees, and that's the most challenges refugees facing. They need opportunity, they need access to better education. So all those challenges need to be resolved, and that only can be done to our public elected officials and our leaders.
All right, we hope that cry will land into the right ears. Now, you talked about the sky being the limit, and we have labeled you, the man who dared to dream. What key things do you seek to address for the people of Minneapolis as it stands right now? And what is your strategy, your main strategy for the August 11 polls?
Yeah, in Minneapolis is one of the progressive cities in the United States. So you can tell 8 years ago, I moved to this country with my just a teenager and with no family. And I started a new life in this country now within 8 years as after I graduated from university and, continue my advocacy. I have seen the real challenges facing my community. We have a significant number of East African community in this Ward 6 particularly. So that inspired me to seek this office and continue speaking and advocating for our community when it comes to public housing, health, economic equality, education, and bring a gap to the disparity that's impacting our communities in this Minneapolis city and the entire state of Minnesota.
All right, that's incredible. Now, Jamal Osman is your senior and one of your opponents in the race. Now, the two of you have so much in common. What sets you apart and what makes you more qualified than him?
When I come to this country, I was a member of various different organizations. Some of them that operate in Kenya, here in the United States and in Kenya. And I was out there speaking African leaders, whether it's Kenyan leaders or Somali leaders or members of the United States Congress. I was out there advocating in the halls of the United States Congress, playing a role, landmark legislation that will help Africa to prosper, such as Electrify Africa, economic and anti-corruption fight, in those that's crippling the economy of Africa. So without 8 years only, I'm here. I was working, I was a long-time volunteer with an organization called The One Campaign. I was a board member of Fullermate. I was not just sitting there, I was advocating for my community. And that makes me exceptional for when it comes to city council. This city of Minneapolis, a city of $1 billion+ budget, and we need someone who understands these things. With my skills and experience and advocacy and first-hand information gives me an opportunity to represent my people and ask them to vote for me in the August 11 polls, because I was in my track record someone who advocate and someone who was advocating for the community when it comes to public housing, senior community, education for our children, and business opportunities for our especially women and young girls. So all that combined gives me an exceptional leadership when it comes to advocating for my community, especially the East African community in this city of Minneapolis.
Now, let's face it, you are African, and we have seen what has been happening with the Black Lives Matter demos. What do you make of the indifference that we have between the people and the police?
In the city of Minneapolis has been on the global spotlight for the past few months because of what happened when George Floyd was killed by the police in Minneapolis after a police officer in Minneapolis put his knee on the neck of George Floyd, and that lots of protests worldwide, and we know this has been happening for quite long time. As a council member, if I'm elected, I will continue holding police accountable, calling our leaders to improve the lives of African Americans or other African people like myself who immigrated to this country. There is a lot of work we need to do when it comes to bringing equality, economic development, social justice for African people, especially the African Americans, and building trust between the police and the government. So there is a lot of challenge facing our community when it comes to relationship we have with the police. So with that, high-profile incident that we lost our brother George Floyd, who died in that tragic incident, and now we're calling for more and more transparency and accountability, and leaders who are in power right now, whether it's the United States Congress or the United States Senate or the President of the United States or the city level or county level, leaders need to do something now. Enough is enough, and these people can't wait.
All right, you may have touched on this, but I'll ask all the same. What is your message on this World Refugee Day?
In this World Refugee Day, there is approximately up to 80 million refugees who are flee from their home countries, and other millions who are internally displaced within their countries, particularly and mostly in Africa. So we are calling world leaders and the United Nations and African leaders, the African Union, to do something about the plight of the refugees. What is happening? We're facing 2 pandemics right now, with the refugee crisis, with this racism and all those race issues going on in this country. With the refugees, they are most vulnerable people now. With this pandemic, they've been hit hard by the pandemic. So we're asking the world leaders to bring durable solutions for the refugee crisis, because they're just human beings. They've been dehumanized, they've been harassed. A lot of young people now have identity crisis. Like just my story it's just like any other story of millions of refugees worldwide. We need world leaders to do something. It's not enough to celebrate the World Refugee Day every year without doing something tangible for the refugees, whether it's a resettlement, whether it's a repatriation, refugees going back to their home countries. And the most important, world leaders need to do something about the peace in Africa, so that we can bring durable solutions for the refugee crisis, whether it's education, whether it's a movement, whether it's a security. The refugees are the most vulnerable in our communities, and that's why people like myself, who were former refugees, are now running for public office in the United States. I will do everything I can and urge world leaders to do something and bring something tangible, so that we can improve the lives of those people.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much, Sud Olad, of course, candidate on the public office, Ward 6, Minneapolis. Thank you so much for being a force to reckon, for a good example of being a good example, and most importantly, a story of hope to the numerous refugees across the world. We can only wish you nothing but the best, and as you, of course, await to see to it that you're able to garner that on the poll of August 11. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda, and I wish you all the best. And I wanna Kenya and all those countries to do something so that we can improve and make refugees history.
All right, thank you so much. And it's now time that, again, we take a short break. We'll be right back with much more. Remember, it's also important that you interact with us. Hashtag Saturday Night Live. We'll be sampling some of your questions as we proceed with the show. Welcome back. Now let's proceed with more news. A meeting held by members of parliament allied to Jubilee, ANC and Ford Kenya parties at Malava Member of Parliament Malulu Injendi's home ended with police lobbing tear gas to disperse them, claiming the meeting was illegal. As Mulindi Kerry now reports, top in the meeting's agenda was to discuss how Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula will join forces ahead of the 2022 general elections.
What appeared to be a peaceful meeting turned chaotic when police officers from Malava police station stormed and lobbed tear gas canisters to the MPs, forcing them to scamper for safety.
A trained officer, if you have any communication, whether from yourself, if we are a threat to the security, just come and tell us. You don't come and tear gas, just 10 people meeting and taking it in.
The meeting aimed to discuss a possible alliance between DP William Ruto, ANC's Musalia Mudavadi and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula. Present at the meeting were Kimilili Didmas Barasa, Kwanza's Ferdinand Wanyonyi and former Kakamega Senator Dr. Boni Khalwale.
Right now tumesema ya kwamba ni lazima tuje pamoja, tuongee kama jamii wa Mulembe na tuwe na umoja, tusikawanyike tena.
Hata mimi nimeshangaa hatukuita wenzangu viongozi kukaa kwa boma yangu, tunazuiliwa. Nimeshangaa. Hii mikutano yetu ambayo tunafanya tukijadili masuala muhimu ya jamii yakiwemo ya kisiasa, hakuna mtu yeyote ambaye atapinga. Mtu mwenye ana mamlaka ya kupinga mikutano ambayo tunafanya kwa kufuata sheria ya COVID peke yake ni Mwenyezi Mungu peke yake.
Hii ni mkutano ya kupanga vile maneno yatakuwa huko mbele. Na hii mkutano vile Mheshimiwa Murungu amesema, tulianzia kwa Mheshimiwa Moses Wetangula, tumekuja kwa Mheshimiwa Mudavadi, na sasa leo hii tuko hapa Kakamega kwa Mheshimiwa Malulu Injendi.
A bitter exchange of words would between the police officers and some of the MPs present at Malulu Injendi's residence.
Seli zako zimejaa. Mimi niko hapa, mkono ndio hii. Kama una pingu, tumia tu hata hiyo kamba unifunge. Unipeleke kwa seli ile unataka.
Mimi naweza kamata.
Kamata mimi.
Mheshimiwa, nataka weka pingu.
Naweza weka. Weka, unangojea nini my friend? Unajua sasa kuweka tear gas. Kuweka tear gas. Mumeumiza mtoto hapa, mtoto wa miaka 3. Kuna mama alikuwa amekuja hapa kupika chakula, amekuja na mtoto amelalisha pale. Mmeweka tear gas yote.
Mimi nazungumza na nyinyi.
Lakini ndugu yangu. Basi wacha niongee Kiluya. Kama unasema Kiingereza ni shida, wacha niongee Kiluya.
The MPs condemned the incidents, claiming that the government is applying double standards on political meetings.
When Mheshimiwa Eugene Wamalwa and Atuoli and Oparanya are meeting in this region, they have the protection. But when other leaders who are elected, we've been elected, we have not been nominated by anybody. We meet just for a cup of tea to discuss the issues affecting our people. We are tear cast, even in our own homes. This is barbaric and we are not going to lie down, my friend.
Shtuka. Na hata tutafanya jambo lolote, lakini kitu kingine hawajui. Ukifanyia viongozi hivi unawapatia nguvu. Wanaweza kuwa wanafikiria sasa wanatuvunja, wanatumaliza, lakini wanatupatia nguvu ya kuonyesha ya kuwa kuna mtu mahali fulani ako na mshtuko.
Mulindi Kerry, TV47, Kakamega.
Away from politics, that tens of thousands of school-going teenage girls have been impregnated in the last 3 months is a matter that should concern all and sundry in society. And women teachers are even more concerned. Kenya Women of Teachers Association says that sex education at early stage in a child's life will help arrest the situation. William Moige reports.
Kenya Women Teachers Association Kewota has called for the introduction of sex education in schools so as to arrest the increasing cases of early pregnancy and incest among teens. Kewota Kirinyaga County Director Wilkista Wanjiru says that sex education should be introduced gradually at an early age to enable children growing up knowing the changes in their bodies.
But as you progress, the age progresses, you also go releasing information that is also age appropriate. some of these children, by the way, they're even getting pregnant because they are not even aware of their changes in their body.
Wanjiru noted that most of the cases of incest and early pregnancies being witnessed currently is a result of children trying new things which their parents and teachers have not talked them through. She insists an early engagement in sex education will go a long way in creating the much needed awareness.
Others are doing abortions, so we need to also look at it from that angle. And we have business people, exorbitant business people who want to make profits from these the morning after pills.
Speaking at Kutus Town in Kirinyaga County, the coordinator has decried the presence of misleading information that make teenagers believe they cannot impregnate each other.
That if you sleep with a young boy, like that case of Bungoma where a 13-year-old impregnated a 14. So maybe they were assuming that it's just child's play. But we are seeing the repercussions.
A group of Extra Mile councillors led by Rose Washira have also called upon the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Service Commission to increase the number of counselling teachers in schools to help the children open up on issues affecting them.
I'm making a passionate appeal to the Teacher Service Commission and the government of Kenya. Please reduce the number of lessons that are given to the guidance and counselling teacher, so that the teacher is able to interact more with the student.
The two further noted the role of nurturing children in the society should not be left to teachers alone, but parents and the society at large should take responsibility. Moige William, TV 47.
And on that note, Saturday Night News take a short break. We'll be right back with more news. Welcome back to Saturday Night News. Now, with borders closed and airlines grounded due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Africa's multi-billion-dollar safari industry is unraveling. And as Tracy Mukami now reports, conservationists fear that desperation could result to increased poaching.
From Masai Mara here in Kenya to the Okavango Delta in Botswana, rural communities that depend on safaris for their income are hurting. A drop in tourist dollars has hit conservation projects hard. And even as countries around the world loosen lockdowns, game parks, lodges and travel agencies face a grim future. For Vomba Tours and Safaris, investments made in anticipation of the tourists' season are now their biggest liabilities.
We've made very few purchases of vehicles, and the most recent one was only a month before Corona struck, and then which therefore means that we are now sitting with vehicles that we're struggling to repay to the finances, and so things are very, very challenging right now because all business is gone right now.
Many companies have now been forced to lay off their staff indefinitely as the coronavirus continues to bite. Animals now roam freely on the empty compound that once was the workplace for many.
It's been tough, and the toughest thing is the staff, because we've had to let the staff go. We paid them for the first month. Second month we paid a limited portion because TERS was kicking in. And yeah, we just riding it out now, but it's not an indefinite thing. We don't know how long.
For people who work in the industry, the future has never been more uncertain.
We save some of our money in the banks, but we just run out of money in the bank. So we'll start starving for now.
Beyond the human cost, conservationists worry that growing desperation in rural communities hit by COVID-19 could fuel a wave of poaching. 3 popular game parks in South Africa recently dehorned dozens of rhinos as a preventative measure, hoping that it will make them less attractive targets for poachers. Tracy Mokami, TV 47.
Thank you, Tracy, for that story. And it's now time that we cross over to some bit of sports, as football fans in the country have a reason to smile. All this hinged on the new look of Nyayo National Stadium. The stadium has been under renovation for 3 years, and the fruits are now ripe. Our sports reporter Julius Juma spent the day at the stadium and now tells the story of the new face of Nyayo Stadium.
It is a stadium that was closed in the first quarter of 2017 to pave way for the much-needed facelift after the stadium's condition significantly deteriorated. Football teams like FC Leopards lacking a place to call home and the high-stake Mashemeji Derby moved far from the city centre. There is Kenya's first stadium of international stature, the Nyayo National Stadium. But after a long wait, the patience accorded to the renovators has finally paid off. Work has been done here. Nyayo is sparkling. Let me walk you through the stadium. Once you step foot in this stadium, you are bombarded with flashy images of a modern stadium, from the terraces to the VIP section through to the pitch. The fans section of this stadium is sparkling too. The seats glittering in the colors of the Kenyan national flag. And not just that, they are numbered, and numbered in style. That is to mean, if you will buy a ticket to watch a match here, you will have to stick to your allocated seat, lest you risk serious action against you. And not just that, CCTV cameras have been mounted to monitor fan behavior so as to weed out rowdiness and vandalism. The playing turf is up to standard, the recipe for streamlined passes that make a match, passes that get fans celebrating even before the ball finds the back of the net. And wait, the grass. There is natural grass. The grass that gets digitalized periodic water sprinkles. Take a look. And when darkness kicks in and action is still going down, no need to panic, for floodlights strategically placed to illuminate the stadium will get the job done until scores are settled, and settled for that matter. The flowers at the VIP section of the stadium tell a story of a flowery Nyayo. As the common saying goes, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. And in this case, beauty lies in these flowers, flowers that lie in Nyayo. There is to mean beauty lies here in Nyayo, a palatable meal for the eyes. There is the famous Nyayo Stadium, the iconic stadium that Kenyans have longed for the completion of its refurbishment. But with all this glitter, there is surely pure gold. Reporting for TV 47, I'm Julius Juma.
And I cannot wait to catch a game at Nyayo. That's a good one, Juma. Let's proceed. see you again next Saturday. My name is Linda Lela. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing as doing this with our sign language interpreter, that is Faith Chiptini. Bye-bye.